Earnestly podcast coming to you on April 5th, 2022. How you guys doing? This podcast, of course, is subscribe to all podcast catchers such as Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. Missing anything? Of course, YouTube. YouTube page, of course, Ernest EJ Christian. I changed it back to my name recently. This, make it easier to find some stuff. And I don't know, maybe my ADHD going on. I don't know. Put back to my name again. You may have noticed too. Also, maybe in video, you're watching it now in video. My beard is gone for the first time in 6 months. My wife told me. My wife requested I shave it. She hates the beard. She's a fan of goatee though. She likes the goatee. But we did celebrate our anniversary recently, and that's all she wanted. She goes, I asked her, "You want anything for anniversary?" She goes, "Just shave the damn beard off." I was actually on the poker commentary because I do that also on my main job. I also do commentary on poker streams on there as well, which I'm having a good time doing that. And everybody else was in the chat in Twitch, and they were saying that, don't shave the beard. Even my co-host Steph was saying, don't shave the beard, whatever. But everybody loves the beard, but my wife. But it's her I need to impress, right? So she won that battle. I did it for her, obviously. I'll bring back some point down the road. It's just hair, right? But yeah, we just celebrated our 11th anniversary, wedding anniversary, on the 3rd. I always reference this every year on the podcast. You may notice most of the time I do the podcast around that same time. I always label 9 years, 10 years, 8 years, maybe, because it's been tradition now for us. And 11 years of marriage, man. We've been together. This July will be 16 years together. 2006 got together. It's been a great, a very great ride, a very challenging ride too at the same time. Like, marriage is not easy. It's a challenge, and but I can't imagine my life without her. Even through the rough times we go through, it's still, she's still my life. She's still my soulmate. She's still, it's funny, like, I no matter what, you always say grass is green on the other side sometimes, whatever. I can't imagine. Even when we go through the rough spots, and we go through a lot of rough spots, believe me, we've gone through a lot of rough spots, even recently. I just couldn't imagine, living this life without her. Not to get all like sappy and romantic here, but this is how I feel. I'm just being honest with my feelings here about that. But we're a very non-traditional family. Well, traditional in some ways, but we do things a certain way. We're a team. Like, one of the things that her and I think we've really impressed on as we've gotten older. She's still in the mid-30s. She's in the mid-30s. I'm obviously turning 42 in May. And it's funny, even though I'm 7 years older than she is, but you would never notice a difference, because when I first met her in 2006, she that's what stuck to me. She was very mature. I thought she was like my age or close to my age. And she was like 19 years old, turning 19 years old. I was 26 at the time. I'm like, really? Like, you're that young? I didn't realize that. And we just had a connection. I just had this ability, just want to be with her and say, and to keep her close to me. She had a lot of situations back when, and I just knew I was drawn to her and wanted to protect her at all costs. So, and we've gone through a major road for the last 16 years being together. I was reflecting a lot with her recently about our days before we got married, before we had kids and all that. We miss those days too sometimes. Cause sometimes simplicity. I think at least on my end, I don't think I appreciated it enough, because I was still going through my that phase of trying to mature, and I'm a guy, man. We're dumb, And sometimes there are moments where, like, sometimes I forget, appreciate the moments, because nothing's guaranteed. And I look back now, it's like, wow, I wish I had some certain things I could have done differently there. But overall, we're here for a reason, and we made it through 16 years, 11 years of marriage. 2 wonderful kids, both who have birthdays coming this week. It's fascinating, because this is our family week, and this week is pretty much the culmination of what our entire family is. You have and it kind of works out in that way, where like April 3rd is our anniversary, and then the seeds of our marriage, the seeds of our just what we've created here, all in the same week. The very next day, my youngest son Logan yesterday turned 5. Time's flying. Time's flying. I remember his birth. And then my son Eli, he's turning 9 on Friday on the 8th. And as as you get older and life becomes, you try to simplify things. I just said, Mike, I'm trying to simplify things. And I remember, yesterday, 2 days ago, thinking about the differences of both my sons and differences of how when we had them. When we had Eli in 2013, very very chaotic day when we had him. Family and friends, and we had one friend sneaking in the hospital because my wife wanted privacy. My friend wanted to be there for her, which was great, obviously. But we wanted privacy. And then you have, of course, just like we had a lot of chaos going through also in the family back then as well. I was going through a lot at the time too. I had a career change, and I was doing a lot of stuff at the time. With I felt a lot of pressure on me at the time, and a lot of anxiety at that time. Being a dad for the first time, especially, it was a lot on my plate at the time. And then and so it was a very chaotic time. Like, I'll be honest with you, to be a little more open here, like we actually almost separated after having my first kid. My wife and I almost called it quits. Just a few months into having our first child. It's a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure on me, and I was not easy to deal with at the time. There's a lot of faults there on my end. I know on some degree on hers as well too. But we went through that, and that was actually a rough year or two. Actually the first year or two of having my oldest son was not hard. It was not easy for me. It was not easy at all. And then, but then you have a second kid we had in 2017. Completely different situation. Completely situation where I was in a much better mental state at the time. Her and I, at the time especially, were doing very well going into the process of having a kid. And we had him very quiet. This was a planned delivery. We actually literally, I don't know if I shared a story before in the podcast a couple years ago, but when we had Logan, our youngest now, we literally, she had a C-section for both kids. This one obviously was planned, the second one, and we literally just drove to the hospital, just casually in the morning, at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, to the hospital, and this 8:16 I think it was a.m. He was born, and it was very very simple, no fanfare. There's no family there. It was very quiet for the first 3 hours. We were just me and the baby and her for the first few hours before family came by to see the baby. It was very different. It's very different, and I've been reflecting on that this week, especially with the, I said the birthdays and stuff and anniversary, and just looking back. That's just 5 years ago, and time is flying. Like, time is really flying. Like, I'm looking at my kids now. Like, my youngest starting kindergarten in August. My oldest, who's nervous as hell because he's taking his FSA test today, reading test today and tomorrow, which I'm myself stressed about now with him. He's turning 9, and we're less than a decade from him being an adult. It's just one of those things where, like, you look back and realize how much time is gone, but how fast it's gone. And it makes you think, do the things you need to do now. Do the things you need to do. Don't take any minute for granted. Don't take any moment for granted. Don't take days for granted. Don't take weeks, months, years for granted. This is why now I'm trying to really become that person who's a little more, when I say aggressive, I mean more so assertive with experiences, doing things and whatnot. And that's why I've been very, been trying to be more open to more ideas and stuff with even the podcast or other things I want to do with my life as I get older. I think more than anything else, I want to be able to just live a simple life and live, but also be able to do the things I want to do, because, I don't want to regret anything, or regret very few as it is. Because there's things now I regret now as it is that I did not get to do, recently, in the last 10 years, 15 years, that I want to do now. So again, happy anniversary to my wife, Lauren. I love you very much. Happy 11 years. We didn't do anything much. We didn't really do anything. We watched Wrestlemania. That's all we did. Watch Wrestlemania. We'll touch on that in a second. I know yesterday with Logan's birthday, we asked him what he wanted for dinner. We go to dinner. He said he wanted Chipotle. So we went to Chipotle with my wife's best friend and her daughter. And then we just had dinner there for about an hour, and then we went to my mom's house and hung out there for a little bit. That was it. Very simple. Loved it. It was great. I think for Friday we're going to be taking my son Eli to the movies to see Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So that's the plan for there. Beyond that, that's about it. Really, we're trying to keep it simple. Their big birthday gift was actually given to them back in March. Went to Legoland, of course. Back in was it March 17th? What it was. Yeah, that's really pretty much it. There, it's gonna be somewhat of a simple birthday celebration week anniversary, and that's fine with me, honestly. So, anyway, I've been thinking about a lot of things with the podcast as of late. I've been trying to balance things out. For example, last week I had said on the show that I had planned on launching a new concept in the podcast. It was actually a wrestling concept called the wrestling retrospective, and we had planned on doing that our first episode last week, recording it. But unfortunately, last week I was burnt out. I was burnt out last week, Tuesday, so I decided to postpone it. We're gonna record it. We're actually gonna record it tonight, finally, so I feel a lot better. But it's got me thinking too, also about some of the things I've been doing in recent months. I want to do different concepts and whatever that, and I'm glad I'm doing it. But I'm also very concerned for myself now too. Also, as things are going to change here a little bit too, as we get closer to the fall. Obviously with football coming back, in the fall, I definitely ratcheted up a lot of the shows. I even launched the football's awesome concept back in October. Ran it through to now, and we, I've enjoyed doing it, but I don't know. I'm actually having thoughts about maybe not doing the same thing next year because of Burnout. Because again, that show, especially in season, that show it's 3 segments, and you gotta find time to record segments with Kyle, with Mike, with Zach, and then my own opening monologue, then edit and publish all together. And next year's gonna be weird because I'm gonna have more time to record podcasts to some degree with my kids starting kindergarten, but then I'm gonna lose time also in a sense as well too because of potential schedule changes with me and my wife and what's gonna happen there. So I don't know if we're gonna have the same concept next year. We'll see how that goes as we get closer to the fall. But it's got me thinking too. Also, I don't want to get burnt out either because as much as I love doing podcasting, and I love doing it. It's my biggest passion outside of my family and whatnot. At the same time, there's other things I gotta pay attention to with my kids. Now they're getting more activities. They do boxing, jiu-jitsu 4 times a week. I have other commitments outside of that as well too. And the podcast, I don't want it to suffer, but I also don't want it to be something where it's also like a chore to the point where I'm getting burnt out. And if I start adding more things to my plate, what happened last week becomes a regular thing. And I don't want, and my mental health, I can't afford to not be on the ball as a parent, and as a husband. So I have to learn balance. So I don't know necessarily. Let me just say this way: the podcast is not ending. It's probably never going to end. But probably the amount of shows I do a week, and probably the schedules, and probably the concepts I initially started to bring forward, back in January, might get peeled back or just gone. I don't know. We'll see how that runs. Like I said, for example, this thing we're doing with the wrestling retrospective, it's going to be episodes I'm going to have baked in. I'm going to record it and I'll put it out whenever I want to. These are evergreen episodes. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm committing to every week. Whereas football's awesome is in season anyways, it's a weekly thing. And then you have the other things I want to do. So I have to figure out exactly what I'm going to be doing moving forward in terms of schedules and what's going to be good for my mental health and what's going to be good for my family too, especially ultimately. Because as my kids continue to do more more activities and you're going to have, now with him, my youngest starting kindergarten in August, there's going to be twice the amount of homework now to worry about, twice the amount of other things now. So it's going to come down to just what is the priority, what is also good for my health, my mental health, and what's good for my family ultimately, and what's the balance and act. Plus, I have my other podcast to do, the Take the Wrestling podcast I do. It's on this feed, which I've been thinking about putting back on its own feed, actually, to be honest with you. But we'll see. We got time to think about that. There's still a few months ahead of us, and we'll go from there, and we'll just try to strike a balance, because that's very important. Strike a balance is very important. So, anyway, I just mentioned a little while ago that, spend my anniversary watching WrestleMania with my wife. Night 2 anyway, but yeah, we're gonna do obviously on Take 3 on Thursday. We're gonna probably do a recap or some of that degree on WrestleMania 38. I just want to leave some thoughts here for myself here as I'm on the show. As I said, last week, like I had lower expectations for the WrestleMania because I felt the card was a little underwhelming in general, and the matches that actually were intriguing to me anyway were most of them were matches I've seen before. Like we've seen Roman and Brock at WrestleMania at least two other times. Okay, so it's not a surprise. And so it was underwhelming. I wasn't looking forward to it in the same way, but then I also said too, with a caveat saying that, yeah, I'm not looking forward to it, but that could be a good thing because of the fact that, it leaves open the element of surprise. And we got that. We got a lot of surprises. Night 1 was fantastic. Now, granted, the first hour, Night 1, did not enjoy it. Was very... I think the only match of Night 1 I really actually enjoyed was the Drew McIntyre... who wrestled? Happy Corbin. Baron Corbin. Happy Corbin. That was an okay match. But other than that, the first hour was kind of a hard watch. And then the show picked up. Then he had, Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. Bianca, got back her title. That story got paid off finally. The story paid off finally for her. Fantastic match. Probably the greatest, if not second greatest, women's match in company history. The other one being the one from Mania last year, Sasha and Bianca. So you'll get the common denominator here is actually Bianca Belair. She's that great. I'm so glad she got the belt. Although Becky did a fantastic job in the match too. They have chemistry, those two. That's the record. Then you have, of course, Cody Rhodes being revealed as the opponent of Seth Rollins. Cody Rhodes, of course, fresh off of AEW, leaving AEW about a month and a half ago. Back to the company 6 years later, the WWE. The crowd went absolutely ape shit. And that was a great match as well too. But of course, for me, the highlight of the night was Stone Cold Steve Austin. We heard that he'll be on the KO show. That was the headline spot. We speculate whether it be an interview, would it be a fight. Austin comes out, it's a fight, and Stone Cold Steve Austin not only gives you a match, he gives you a 20-minute match, and that was a fantastic time. I mean, Austin obviously not the same guy. He's 57 years old. First match in 19 years since WrestleMania 19. But for what it was fantastic. It was a great time. It was nostalgia, and then some. So I enjoyed Night 1. I went to sleep with Night 1 on a high. I was so happy about it. I actually ended up watching WrestleMania 19. Hogan, Rock, and Lesnar against Kurt Angle. But you figure, okay, well, Night 1's that good. There's no way hell you can top Night 1. With Night 2, and Night 2 delivered as well. Night 2 probably had better matches overall. I mean, the RKO Bro, retaining tag titles against triple threat match against the Profits and Alpha Academy. That was a great match. My wife hated this match. I enjoyed it. The Johnny Knoxville Sami Zayn match with all the gimmicks and stuff in there. I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, Pat McAfee killed it against Austin Theory. And then, Vince comes in there and he beats McAfee. Then Austin comes in there and he stuns Vince and McAfee later on. I mean, and then of course the main event, Lesnar and Reigns, they did their thing. Night 2 did match. Night 2 pretty much did match Night 1 if you think about it in some ways. So I enjoy WrestleMania 38. I look, it's been a couple days since the event, so you want to get to prisoner moment about this stuff. But I would dare say, just from a moment standpoint alone, this is probably a top 10 WrestleMania. Now, I'm gonna one day, I'll probably do this next year because I actually have not watched every WrestleMania yet. I don't think I've watched any WrestleMania. I think I watched WrestleMania 20. I watched WrestleMania 20 through 24. Then I've seen matches here and there from different ones from like 25 through 34, but I haven't watched the entire shows. I'm gonna actually this year, between now and next year, and the next year, I'm gonna promise myself to do this. That sometime next year, leading up to WrestleMania 39, I'm going to do a separate podcast, and I'm going to rank all 38 WrestleManias in order from worst to first. I already know my bottom 4. Bottom 4 is easy. I'll say right now, WrestleMania 1 and 2 is definitely in the bottom 4. WrestleMania 11 is in the bottom 4 probably as well too. 9 is going to be very interesting. That's the toga, wearing stuff. But we'll see. That's my goal next year. Is I'm going to rank all 38 WrestleManias from start to finish, from worst to first. Based on not just the main event, but also based on the actual entire card. So that's my plan. I'm gonna watch the ones I haven't seen yet, between now and next April, next March, whatever, next year, and we'll see how it goes. So, one last thing for us going, because I want to keep this a little short today, because I'm actually recording 2 other podcasts tonight, so I don't want to get burnt out. I did finish the WWE Evil Series on Peacock. Great job by WWE. 8-part series about 8 heels in history of the company. Episode 1, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Excellent episode, of course. I mean, I'm Hogan's disciple for years, so obviously that's down my alley. Episode 2, I believe, was The Miz. That was one of the better ones too, especially with The Miz, because again, didn't watch The Miz's early career. From 2006 in, but once obviously he's obviously a star now. Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, of course. But that was a great episode. Episode 3, I believe, was Sasha Banks. I thought that was pretty decent. Episode 4, I want to say was, don't remember what episode 4 was. Episode 4 was, don't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, you had that. You had Randy Orton. So you have Sasha Banks, Hollywood Hogan, The Miz, Randy Orton, which I thought was a great episode for the record. The last one was Roman Reigns, of course, which was fantastic. And I think Roman Reigns is officially cracked my top 10 favorite wrestler of all time after watching that documentary. Stephanie McMahon was on there as well, too. That's the 6th one, I believe. Number 7 was Ric Flair. So what's number 5? I forgot number 5 was. You had Orton. Let me see here. I'm looking at it now. I'm looking at it right now, because now I have to know. But the Roman episode was actually fantastic. And it's a lot of real life, because Roman being pushed as the baby face, and that was really who he was, and the crowd didn't respond well to him, and then he turns heel. I still wonder if we didn't have the pandemic, does Vince turn him heel finally? I mean, you got to figure that maybe he does, I guess. But let me see. Okay, so 1 is Hogan, 2 The Miz, 3 Sasha Banks. Oh, Brothers Destruction, Kane and Undertaker. That was a great episode too. So it's a great series, dude. I tell you, WWE does. I'm not trying to compare WWE and AEW and whatever, but WWE, because they have the legacy, they have the all just the amount of space and library to do these things, but they have a fantastic collection of documentaries and just things they do to market themselves well, And this series, I finished it in like a couple days. It was great. So yeah, check it out if you're a wrestling fan, of course. I didn't mean to go wrestling heavy on this one, but I figured because the WrestleMania just passed this week and the WWE Evil. NBA season's almost over. I think this Sunday's the last day of the season. The Lakers look like not making the playoffs or to play in at all. Wow, I mean, it's insane. By the way, I actually, before I go, it's now the 3rd time they've done it now. That we're doing this year. I actually love the play-in. I think the play-in has been a great idea for the NBA. It's done some great things. It's created great races, not just from the bottom, even on the top, but even in the middle. And what it's done is it's risen the floor of each conference. Like for example, normally the traditional way the NBA does playoffs is like 1 against 8, 2 against 7, 3 against 6, 4 against 5. Now, if you are finished the year between 7 and 10, okay. 7 and 8 play one game. The winner of 7 and 8 automatic gets a 7th seed in the conference. Okay. 9 and 10 play also too. The winner of that game plays the loser of number 8. The loser of the 7 and 8 game. Okay. The loser of 9 and 10 is out completely, immediately. The loser of 7 and 8 gets another crack to get 8 seed. It's risen the floor. And all 4 teams in the Eastern Conference that are in the play-in, that will be in the play-in, Brooklyn, Charlotte, Atlanta, and I think it's Cleveland right now, all winning records. So it's missing the floor. Even the West is pretty decent. So I'm looking forward to playing this year. No Lakers. Looks like it's gonna be no Lakers, and just got to report LeBron's not playing tonight. So yeah, but I love the play-in. I'm looking forward to playoffs, and I get really engaged, especially in basketball. Obviously, I'm engaged all the time with NBA, but with the playoffs, it's another season. It's literally 2 months of just nonstop basketball every night for me, especially, and I'm heavily engaged in it. Even my wife's engaged in it. Even my wife gets into it. So I'm looking forward to the NBA playoffs and the play-in and all that. I cannot wait. Thank God I have a schedule that allows me to watch these games at night, which is great. So yeah. I also didn't, thinking of basketball, college basketball just ended last night. You realize I didn't watch a single minute. I didn't watch a single minute of this tournament whatsoever. First weekend I was out of town on vacation, so I didn't have any, feel the need to watch anything. And then I have stuff going on every weekend since then. It's the first time I've never watched a tournament, and I even the Final Four I didn't watch it. I watched WrestleMania over the Final Four on Saturday, and then last night was the final game, and I wasn't invested. Even with the Coach K, Michael Krzyzewski, obviously retiring now, losing in the Final Four. I wasn't invested in any of these stories. This is the first. I said it early in the year. This is the first time probably in my entire life that even when I don't watch college basketball, I'm at least invested in the tournament. This is the first year I did not care. I just didn't care. Even when I wanted to, I wasn't pulled enough to watching it. I don't know what it is. But shout out to Kansas for winning the national title last night, or North Carolina. I think they were down 15 at halftime and they came back and won. As I saw the score at halftime, they were down 15. So shout out to Kansas, of course, for doing that. So that's it for now. My throat's a little sore. But I had this cough I had for the last 3 weeks. I still can't get rid of it for some reason. So, but I'm going to record 2 more podcasts tonight, so I want to get to Burnout here. So I'm on Twitter at EJChristian7, YouTube Ernest EJ Christian on YouTube, Earnestly Podcast on all podcast catchers as well too. And we will talk soon. Stay up, stay positive. Again, happy birthday to my wife, and happy birthday to my sons Eli and Logan this week. So, talk to you guys later. Love you guys. Take care, and see you.